The Chicago boys, which later came back in a much more pragmatic fashion, were able to eliminate hyperinflation, instilled in the Chilean mentality this entrepreneurial initiative, this sort of Schumpeterian idea of entrepreneurial capacity that Chileans did not have before. And now you find in Chile young people that want to export anything and everything. And they're pretty good at it, by the way. And that didn't exist before. And there was also, in addition to that, this idea that we have to sustain the economy on the basis of exports. Chile is too small of a market, 16.5 million people. We have to conquer the world. And the motor of the economy must be exports. So those were things that were important under Pinochet. But I would say the real economic miracle happened with democracy. Because, first of all of the indicators were much better beginning in 1990 than they were ever during the dictatorship. Look at economic growth that was doubled. It was during time of Pinochet, even if you take the worst year, it was a mediocre around 3% to 4%. With democracy, it was between 5.5 and 6.5, and even more during the decade of the 90s. You look at what poverty Chile inherited with Pinochet, almost 40%. Today, poverty in Chile is about 13.5, 13.4%, and absolute poverty has been basically eliminated, even though you know that measuring poverty can be a tricky issue. Out of 10 university students in Chile, 7 have been, for the first time that somebody in their family goes to college. So the inclusion process that has occurred in Chile is unbelievable. Look at the census data. In 1990, only about 34% of the population owned refrigerators and washing machines. Today it's 94 and 95%. Those things, frankly, you cannot invent. The consumption of meat per capita in Chile, red meat, kilos per year, used to be about 33 kilos per year. Now it is 79 kilos per year. I don't know whether that is good or bad, but that's another issue. But all of the indicators demonstrate that the economic miracle occurs in democracy, with unions that can protest, with political parties that can mobilize, with a Congress that is open for business, with newspapers that now lose the fear about criticizing the government every single day, with the game of democracy where the government often pays the costs, even if you do things right. Because people want more. What did you do for me today? What you did for me yesterday is not enough. So that's the real economic miracle. And the bottom line is, therefore, that will Pinochet be remembered as a reformer or as a brutal dictator? I would say that the brutal dictator will win hands down. Because you could have even implemented many of those changes without throwing people from helicopters, without disappearing, without torturing, without exiling. And that, I think, is the lesson of Chile. Thank you. Sure.
Questions for 15?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Questions or comments? Yes.
I was going to ask you, I have read parts of your book, and I was going to ask you, it was also mentioned in the Mitrokin archive, the compendium of KGB documents, that supposedly the Soviet Navy had a plan to rescue Luis Corvalán from where he was being held in the south of Chile. And was that ever seriously considered?
Well, apparently it was, because it made it actually to the Politburo, the discussion. And however, it was thought to be a bit too wild, because the idea was to have to send a submarine that would have landed in Dawson Island, where Luis Corvalán, and Dawson Island, by the way, is in the Patagonia, near the Strait of Magellan, really awful places. There's a movie that just come out about it. And it was really thought to be a bit of Wild West type rescue, and it was shut down. But it was important enough to have been considered. That, what shows you, is the importance of the Communist Party of Chile for the Soviet Union, because first of all, the Communist Party of Chile was the largest and the most powerful if you don't consider the Cuban. And historically had been so. And second, it was the most aligned with Moscow, ever. I mean, what they always said was the party line in Moscow. They used to say, the joke was in Chile, you know, if it rains in Moscow, the Chileans will immediately open their umbrella. So that was the truth. And what happened was that later on, actually, the head of the Communist Party, Luis Corvalán, was exchanged with a Soviet dissident sometime down the road, demonstrating how important it was for the Soviet Union at the time that they were willing to pay the cost of liberating a dissident to exchange it for Corvalán.
It was Sharansky, wasn't it?
It was Sharansky.
Right.
Yeah. No, it wasn't Sharansky. It was, I don't remember, but it wasn't Sharansky. No. Yes.
During the lead up to the election, or not the election, but the vote in the Security Council on whether or not there was going to be Security Council resolution to remove Saddam Hussein from power, it was revealed that Cheney Bush or the U.S. administration had been spying on countries such as, I think, Cameroon and maybe Chile and some of these other countries. What was the reaction in these non-aligned countries to their diplomatic communications being spied on in such a way? Was it, well, what can you expect from the American government, or was there a sense of outrage?
Well, you know, I'm still ambassador to and I'm supposed to not talk about issues that are very sensitive like that. But I will respond saying the following, that we were very careful about what we said on the phone and the things that we put on emails, and we had people from Chile sweeping regularly our offices and our home. And I'll say the following. History shows that the U.S. spied on all of the members of the soon-to-be the United Nations that went to San Francisco to discuss the UN Charter. In fact, our foreign minister we discovered bugs, and it's no secret because if you look at the history of the creation of the UN, there's a book by Stephen Schlesinger where he remembers this anecdote that they were bugging all of the delegates to the San Francisco conference. So, if they were bugging in 1945, what do you think they were doing in 2003?